evening, everybody, and welcome back to another Sunday night live stream. As you can tell, I'm not in the usual studio at the moment. I'm out and about on our first day of the week of travelling around lots of schools, getting kids into gardening. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I want to find out your stories about kids gardening. I am going to be joined by Lee in just a moment. He's sat right there, just finishing off a few things. At the moment, I am in a, hotel slash service station just next to East Midlands Airport, I think it's called. That's right, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Hopefully you can hear me all okay. I'm not using my usual setup, so I'm going to read some comments and you're going to get my finger going across the camera, I'm afraid. So first of all, we've got Jenny is there saying, hello, everyone. Hope you're all well and had a great week. Welcome along, Jenny. This is slightly harder to use. Digwell is there saying, too hot and bothered, so it's just high all today. There's no training coming in from him today. Oh, this is very easy. Not very easy to use. Jenny says, my rain dance didn't work, Steve. My brassicas need to start again. What else have we got? I'm going to read them out. I'm not going to show them on screen. Scott is there saying, good evening all. Good evening to you. Adrian is there saying, hi, Richard and all. Nathan, allotted chef. Evening all. Good evening to you. Stuart Jackson, evening Richard and Lee and the Veg Army. Been out in the garden most of the day, trying to keep up with all the buyers of my charity table today, taking around £50. £50, fantastic. And Stuart Jackson, oh no, oh, I missed a few there, didn't I? Where are we? Hargrave Gas. Hello, everyone. Hope you. Oh, I'm just nearly dropped the phone. Hello, everyone. Hope you've had a great week. Looking forward to another good chat. Stuart Jackson says, hope you didn't hit too much traffic on your travels. Good luck this week, team. Traffic was pretty good on the way up here, actually. Not so much from my way up to Leeds this morning. That was a bit of a nightmare, but on the way up here, it wasn't too bad. Turbo Stream. Good evening, Veg Podcasters. Nicola. Evening, Richard and Lee. Digwell says sounds better than normal. That doesn't surprise me sometimes. Even though I've got very expensive audio equipment, the iPhone is probably better than anything, except for trying to use it when doing this, because this is hard. Stuart Jackson says, I did a visit from a great children's garden educator. You should have seen his face when I got the power saw out with the children. And Jenny says, I used to run a kids gardening club at school. I refused to let the school only allocate spaces, where are they, to those who sign up, and they should pay. I made it so they could come and go as they pleased. And Turbo Stream says, I've done no gardening this week. Took myself camping to a very sunny Pembrokeshire. Excellent. So yeah, the topic up for discussion today, and there is a reason behind it, is kids gardening. Now the reason behind this is, I'll get Lee to explain when he comes along in 2 minutes. He's saying he's just trying to get all of his final work done. But I think what I want to find out to you is anybody out there, do you believe that getting kids into gardening is important? Do you think it's something we should all be striving to do? Let us know. Jenny says, most stayed, continuing on from a message earlier, most stayed for the whole time from ages 4 to 11. They designed, dug and made and planted gardens, seed cuttings, etc. If I'm inspired by one, I'm happy. Turbo Stream says, I don't have kids or know any, so I'll sit at the back like a well-behaved child. Now, I don't want this to be aimed at people who... I don't have kids. Let's put it like that. I don't have kids either. I may have been a child once, but I want to find out, really what I want to find out is, first of all, do you think it's important? But also I want to find your stories as a child of what you found if you got involved in gardening as a child. I certainly did. And I've said this quite a few times, is that my grandfather was a very keen rodeo owner. And at 10, I converted built my first vegetable garden. Basically, is Lee. This is a bit different, isn't it?
Hey everyone, how you doing?
They don't answer like that.
Oh, do you know what, mate? Hey everyone.
Try and get you in.
Sorry, I was just finishing off some bits. I just want to quickly say that the dedication of this man to still do a live, even though we're halfway up the country on a Sunday, is amazing. So I appreciate him, and you should appreciate him too.
You're too kind.
Give
You're
some
too
kindness, give some
kind.
love.
It would be better if everything worked as it planned, but it didn't.
It
So
never
I'm doing
did.
this on the phone. We're a bit closer now, aren't we?
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
There we go. Anyway, yeah, we're up here in Derby today, where we are ready to get on our school gardening tour. Tomorrow we start in Derby, and that is why we're here in this beautiful lodge of travels. And yeah, we're very excited.
I think what we need to do first is what is the point, or what are we doing this week?
What is the point?
What is the point, and what are we doing this week?
This week we are looking to inspire 10,000 children in 1 week to get gardening. So from sowing seeds to looking after wildlife to just spending time with each other. The biggest thing is that we're going to 15 schools throughout the country. We're going to get everyone out in the playground, all sowing seeds, all getting excited, and hopefully the impact of that will travel into the May half term, into National Children's Gardening Week. By the way, if you've heard of National Children's Gardening Week, let us know in the comments, because we'd love to. I personally would love to know if you've heard of that week before. But National Children's Gardening Week is about inspiring families and children to get gardening, obviously. So this whole week of tour is all about that, pushing that whole message, and overall trying to, for us, trying to find out what schools need to get this into either their curriculum or day-to-day life, and how we can support teachers a lot more. Because as you know, I've been doing a lot around getting gardening into the curriculum. And yeah, since the last time we did a tour like this, that was 5 years ago, there's been so much change, and I want to see what's changed and what is still needed.
Now, Stuart Jackson says every child should have access to a garden, and yes, it should be in the national curriculum. This was actually something we were talking about on the drive up, because there was a survey done by, I can't remember who it was now, who had asked a load of children, and 67% said that they had spent some time in the garden. I thought that was a bit too low, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound quite the high figure I expected.
Yeah, I think 67% is low. We never specified what they did outside, but at least they were getting outside. So later on, I'm going to tell you about stay tuned, everyone. I'm going to tell you about a competition for National Children's Garden Week where you can win a £1,000 garden bundle. But stay tuned for that later. Cliffhanger. But I think 67, was it 67%?
67%.
67% is low. And I think the issue we've got there is we've got a massive generation of parents that may not have gardened before. So if you find, like, how did you get into gardening?
I had a bit of spare land at the top of my garden. I just decided I was going to turn it into a garden.
Did you have any experience when you were younger in gardening?
Yeah, my dad, before my parents got divorced, my dad had this corner of the garden that he'd said was mine and my sister's, and we could do what we wanted.
Yeah,
so it was quite different to how most people brought up.
Yeah, that's unique, I think. Like, I think there's a massive generation of parents that don't really do that, and maybe they never got to do that when they were younger. I don't know. There seems to be like a divide, especially like at my young age, maybe not your age, Suggs, but my young age. There's a divide in, like, it doesn't happen. Parents don't garden. They want really easy fixes, and they just want to spend their time having barbecues, maybe, which is lovely outside. But the missing point is getting the children out there and doing something together and creating memories. And so I think that is probably the issue we've got around that. So 67% is not really where we want to be at. And I think that is because there's a lot of parents that don't garden at the moment.
Yeah. Chef Scott says, very important. Wish I had it at school and still needs more. Now my partner is a teacher and schools seem to be hit and miss with how much they do.
Yeah, schools really differ in where they are. So I'm a governor of the school, Scott, and obviously a parent as well. And parents love to moan about schools and what they're up to. But what I've learned over the years, and don't get me wrong, I used to be a parent that was like, "Oh, this school doesn't do enough." But actually, every school's different. Every school is champion in. Is that a word?
Champion.
Championing
Champion.
something different. And what I've learned is that you've got to play to their strengths. So for instance, my school is probably not really massively into gardening, but really good at reading. So if I want to try and get gardening into it, I need to connect it to that reading side. There are other schools that go around and shout about their sports and how they're really great at sports. Again, we just want to try and show them schools how they can sort of pivot and use that outdoor learning instead of maybe going to play volleyball or volleyball. No,
Well, they
might play football.
I mean,
Maybe netball.
but
Something like that.
the thing is, all these sports that take part on, like just take football.
Yeah.
Somebody has to cut the grass. That's gardening. So there's that element of gardening plays into sports.
I talk about this so much recently, especially about lawn. I know we talk about allotments a lot on here, obviously, but lawn and grass is such a plant that no one really shouts about enough. And I think that, if anything, you need to look after your lawn and especially think about it a lot more than people do.
Now, Jenny says, happy memories as a child. My uncle grew our Halloween pumpkins, etc. I can still smell and feel the warm tomatoes filled my greenhouse with my nana.
Always a good smell.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, that smell of tomatoes, as you know, I inherited my granddad's greenhouse. But when he was alive, we still grew tomatoes in that greenhouse. And as a child, I remember going in there and that smell of tomatoes, every time I smell it, it takes me back to that sort of youngster. I mean, many years ago now, but it takes me back to that. It's a real powerful scent smell. And it brings back so many memories.
Something that I talk about a lot more than anything, and if you listen to stuff that I do, I talk more. Sometimes I talk about plants, sometimes I talk about flowers, sometimes I talk about vegetables. But one of the overriding features of what I talk about more than anything around children's gardening or gardening in general is memories, because I really feel that the memory side of remembering like the tomato smell, remembering growing pumpkins, that stays with you, and that's a great way to get gardening for children and adults as well, by making memories. And that's what life is about, isn't it? And if we can do that in the allotment or in the garden, all the better. But yeah, everyone, I remember, even if you think about it right now, that smell of tomatoes,
I can smell it.
In between it, you can smell it, you can just picture it, can't you?
Yeah, I can smell it right now. I think this is Tybo. Tybo Stream says, I don't remember gardening as a kid. My dad hated it. Bizarrely, I now own my childhood garden. So that does count. Does that count? You know, yeah, it does. And I think that's actually an example that you don't, I mean, you're probably going to go against what Lee's saying here, but you don't have to garden as a kid to be into gardening. You can get into it at any age.
Yeah. Well, I got into it at 24. So
you did, didn't you? Yeah.
I never gardened when I was home. But I suppose if you're now gardening your childhood garden, is that payback?
It's reliving the youth you never had.
Yes, it's making up for lost time.
Jenny says hello, Lee.
Hey, Jenny.
Nicola says, Richard, can't you use Lee's phone to read the comments to make it easier for you?
Oh, yeah, I could do that.
Well, that only works on YouTube. If somebody's on Facebook, it may not.
Oh, yeah, we missed some comments here.
Yeah. Stuart says, I have only known Richard to miss one show in the last 5 years. He's just amazing to be here every Sunday.
He's incredible.
We were talking about that, but Turbo Storm says, it's nice to see kids on the allotment though. Actually, yeah, we've been having an influx of kids on our allotment. Some people aren't happy about it because of the noise they make. Personally, I don't mind it. I think it's great to see them getting involved.
Is that really a complaint?
Some people, very, very minute amount of people. But it's the same person that complained that women were on the allotment, for example. So, you know, you take what he complains.
They were right in some senses, I suppose. That was a joke. I was totally joking there, by the way. Don't cancel me.
Yeah, so we take what he says with a pinch of salt. Digwell says, we had gardening classes at comprehensive school, but only for those who were not likely to take the GCEs, etc. I think actually that's something the same as Adam Frost, wasn't it? He did gardening at school because he was told he wasn't going to become anything in his life or something.
Yeah, look at him now.
Look at him now. But that's actually a very common thing. There's a lot of schools that have said to, well, certainly when I was growing up, it's probably different now, so I don't want to cast aspersions. But we're told, well, you're not going to become anything, so become a gardener. Which I don't like that, because some gardeners have made incredible livings out of it.
Another thing that I struggle with sometimes, I still battle this a little bit sometimes when I go into schools, is that gardening is sometimes given to children that perhaps misbehave in class. And for me, anyway, I see that as almost a treat.
Yeah.
As saying, actually, if your behaviour's bad, then you can go outside and garden, and everyone else sort of misses out. So I really struggle with that, and I've still not got an answer for teachers when that comes around without sounding too harsh around it. I get it in some senses, but at the same time, I feel like the class also needs that opportunity to be outside and have that treat about growing their own stuff.
Mm. All I could say in defence of that is that I think there's some children, and I went to a school with a person who was like this, was misbehaving because the school wasn't teaching him the way he needed to learn.
Yeah.
But when he went out into the garden, he was learning, and he's actually running his own gardening business now, very successfully. So I actually think there's some children that could benefit from learning through gardening. And I've said this time and time again, there's so much in history, biology that gardening includes that is being missed out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nicholas says all schools should do gardening. Again,
100%.
100%. The trouble is that not all schools have a Stuart Jackson in their lot to actually take that lesson on.
Yeah, yeah, that's a real issue, isn't it? We could do with more Stuart Jacksons, really, couldn't we?
The sun's coming in that way.
Oh, you want us to look better? Do you want me to hold it for a little bit? Does that help you?
Yeah, go on then.
There we go. Right. So anyway, yeah, I think that is an issue. That's an issue we've got, is that we can't replicate Stuart Jackson as much as we want to. We can't replicate me as much as that would be amazing. We all know that. But what we do need is to try and make something an easy success, something really simple and easy to get started for those teachers that don't have any idea, so we can inspire them. And I think something that's I've been thinking about a lot more recently is, what is that thing that inspires the teacher that isn't a gardener, doesn't know the benefits of gardening? What is that one thing that we can just spark that little bit of inspiration?
Yeah. What is that one thing?
I don't know yet. That's the thing we're looking for. Maybe Stuart could help answer that. But,
it says National Children's Gardening Week he has heard of, but it should be the week before or the week after, as you both know.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about it, Stuart, as well, haven't we? And I really tried to push for it to be during the week of school. But that's why we've sort of done the connection of doing it this school this week, having that impact following on in the May half term, so families can get involved as well. Because I think that's important. One of the things that I do talk about a lot is families being part of it, and the school being the epicenter of that, so that can sort of branch out to schools. So sorry, I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. I feel like I'm talking too much.
Oh, it's nice to get a bit of a break.
Tell me, this is just something from us, but what does that dollar mark mean?
I have no idea. I've never seen that before.
So you can pay us money right now on the stream. Is that what it's for?
I have no idea.
Let's do it. We can make millions from this, Suggs.
Could cost me a fortune.
Yeah.
So
where am I up to on this comment?
Come here.
I'm not very good at this. I'm sorry.
Let me control this. Where Tails there?
Dale's on there.
Where was he? Loads of people have joined. Sorry, we've.
If you've just joined, we're on the road today. Suggs is doing the live out on the road.
Where are we? Beddoes is there.
Hey, Beddoes.
Right, I think we're gonna. Is Lee really younger than you, Rich? Yes, he is.
My joker.
Much younger. Tiz was Compost Corner. I don't know what was that? Tiz was, says Digro, Compost Corner. Tiz was a kids' program, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sure you can prop it up on here.
That's going to be really low.
That'll be all right. They don't mind.
So, right, let's try that. Right, that's really low.
No, it's too low.
Too low for everyone. Sorry, everyone. It helps them to read at a younger age, they say, talking about gardening.
Yeah.
Jenny says, unfortunately, a lot of kids' gardens have that terrible fake glass and plastic flowers with it. They don't run away from bugs and don't get dirty. I guess it's so much in the shops and it's instant.
I saw a garden the other day, a kid's garden that was designed, and it was covered in astroturf. Brand new garden. I'm not going to say who did it, but it was covered in astroturf, and it was cold and soulless and horrible. It was not what children's gardens about. I can't say that that garden would have inspired any children. So you're right. There needs to be wildlife. There needs to be those worms like popping out of the soil. Like I remember last week, I was pouring some water on the grass. I was getting rid of some water I had, and all these worms started popping out of the ground. And I was like, "Oh, come and look at this!" And she's like, "Ah!" But it was amazing, right?
Olive's your daughter, just follows the
I should reference, yeah, Olive's my daughter. Yeah, she's pretty famous, Olive. I think everyone knows her.
Yeah. Kate says, good evening, Veg Army. It was nice to see you, Lee.
Hey.
Degra says, well, keep yours on Facebook and Lee's on YouTube. Not quite worked that. Chili Kate says, Phil and I had a very different experience. Phil's mum always grew lots of fruit and veg.
Good.
My parents did minimal gardening as a teen. I took on an allotment, but no knowledge. It didn't last long. So, but one thing I'm going to reference there with Phil is that he actually grew in the similar sort of area that I grew up in. We actually went to the same school in secondary school.
Right.
So we were quite rural where we grew up. And I think when you grow somewhere rural, back in the 80s, certainly, it was pretty normal for older people as well to be growing a lot of their own food and garden. I think sort of in the 90s, noughties, it became, I don't want to say less normal, but more like people didn't do so much of it, if you know what I mean.
Do you think that had something to do with the millennium bug? Remember that millennium bug? Do you think we didn't realise that? Do you think that's something? No, seriously. Do you not made that out? That was what it was. Nothing happened to computers, but what it actually did was reprogram people's minds to not go out in the garden.
No.
And since then, for the last 25 years, we're not in a pub garden, by the way. This is not me. I'm not drunk.
No, we're not.
This is me.
No,
this is my main thoughts.
Yeah.
For 25 years. Am I taking over your life?
It's fine. You go ahead.
25 years we've been trying to battle that millennial bug. That's all I'm saying. Conspiracy theorists.
My theory is that the cost of living in the 90s, noughties and sits went up so much that it became normal to have two-person families working, double income coming in, and that left less time for families to do gardening. That's my theory. I'm not saying it's quite right, but I do.
Wild. That's a wild theory compared to mine.
Compared to yours. So Stuart says, I agree with Lee. It's making memories. I try to give children a silly fact, which hopefully they will remember. Totally agree with that as well. I do that quite often.
That's a really good point. And also, one thing I will just I know earlier on, Stu said about, did he say about a chop saw or something he was using in the school? Do you remember he said that earlier on?
Yeah, something about saw,
Memories. Like, I remember being there when I can't remember what he got out, like a saw or something, like it was electric something, and he let the kids use it, and I thought that was wild. But memories, that's what he was making. He was like, giving them a sense of responsibility outside, making them remember that moment, and I remember it as something that is an important thing that I now do off the back of that. So yeah.
So Rob's Allotment Gardening and Anna Jones have joined. Scott says, so true. I think you can link most school course subjects to gardening with some with cooking. I totally agree. I mean, if you think of the history of like the potato and Sir Walter Raleigh bringing it over, there's history there. There's biology there. There's a lot of things that gardening, cooking. I mean, British Empire was all about trade with spices and things. You know, there's so much history that goes on with these things.
But I think cooking's an amazing part of it. I think that in fact it's the main, if you're going to be growing your own at school or in general, if you can't link it to eating and cooking, then you're looking at failure, because kids will see that plant and then not connect it with something you actually eat. So I think that's important.
So Digwell says times have changed. Yeah. Andrew says evening all. Hey Richard. Good evening, Andrew. How are you? I saw a video of you. Was it photos on a tractor with your neighbour earlier? Stuart says gardening could be used as a carrot. We all learn in different ways. Yes. Yeah, using the carrot and stick method. The carrot leads people. Greg says during doing A levels, we were told if you don't go to university, then you'll never get any decent jobs. I was having this same conversation earlier. No effort to suggest picking up a trade, or more importantly, finding something you enjoy. That happened even when I was at school. I was actually put in detention because I didn't want to go to college or university. I wanted to go and learn a trade. I do think there was an element of schools. I think it looked good for schools if people went to university.
Yeah, it did.
And I think that still goes on now, to be honest.
I went into a trade, but now my biggest advice to anyone that's leaving school is just go and do something. Not the thing. Don't do. I mean, I know no one's leaving school on this group, but
Maybe.
maybe you never know. But do something. Don't matter if it's the thing, because your career can always change whenever.
Dale totally agrees with me.
Oh, of course he does.
Of course he does. Scott says, I would have done so much better at school if it was taught through cooking or gardening for other subjects. Again, I totally agree with that. It's that physical connection, that different connection that can wire your brain to remember things. And different, again, I'll say this, different children learn different ways.
Yes.
And the trouble I have again with the school system, I don't want to beat up on school people here, by the way, or teachers or anything, but I feel the school system tries to squeeze children into the mold instead of molding around the children.
Yeah.
I think my personal view there.
I think you're right, but I think the issue you've got there is in a class at any one time you've got about 35 kids.
Yes.
So difficult. Each kid with different issues and problems that they need to support. It's a hard one being a teacher. It's it's hard.
Yeah. Turbo Stream says, in my school, the boys did wood and metal work and the girls did cooking. I think all kids should learn to cook and how to grow food. You know, I've always said that because I think growing food and knowing how to cook it is one of the most important things, life skills we need to learn. If we don't know how to cook, we can't eat.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm being a bit flippant with that, but it is
eat healthy.
Eat healthy.
It's a thing.
But we need to eat every day. How many times a day do you use trigonometry, for example?
Well, do you know what? One of the issues I'm having at the moment is Olive comes in from school. What's she calling? Pythagoras theorem or whatever?
Pythagoras, yes.
And I thought it was a film. I thought it was a Ridley Scott film, but it's not. It's an actual mathematical.
Yes, I do remember it. It's to do with triangles.
Yeah, I had no idea. Yeah. I could not. I was no help to her.
Rob says, when I was a kid and the careers officer came to see me, I said I wanted to be a plant fitter, mechanic on the earth moving machines. He told me there was no call for gardeners. That kind of sums it up, doesn't it? You know,
it's not ideal, is it?
Yeah. Digwell says the Gremlins, his grandkids, met Lee last year. They love gardening, runs in the blood.
No, I love that. Good times.
Yeah.
That's good.
Chubby, right, I'm not going to read your entire
name. What a name.
Hayley and Richard, first time watching the live, but have listened to all 605 episodes of the podcast.
Wow.
I got to the last episode Friday. Wow. Thank you very much.
Dedication. We'll be doing a test later on.
Stuart says, maybe we should have invited the parents to the tour to educate the parents as well. That's a really good point, I think. And I think for this week for the tour, for instance, Stu, you probably don't know this yet, but wherever we go, we're giving each child the seeds they've grown and also an activity sheet to take home to like join the dots of what's happened throughout that day. Also get parents involved. But I think it's not a bad idea for the future to think about that for some schools, that we can get parents involved a little bit more. I've got some other ideas I'll tell you about later in the week. But yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've been discussing on the drive up today is what Lee wants from this week. I mean, your overarching aim is your
Money.
kids,
Oh, sorry, kids.
kids into getting kids into gardening.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to say we want to get kids into gardening. How do we do that? We've been discussing that quite a bit. But one of the things that we've mentioned earlier was one of the problems I felt I noticed, and it was the case with you and Dale,
Yeah.
is that growing up, these two, their dads, the garden was their dad's. It was his private
He
joy.
gets an absolute hammer in my face.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not making.
He's not
It's
a
not.
lovely person.
Yeah. I'm not saying that as a negative thing because I think most parents, their garden is their garden. It's their pride and joy. I mean, I wouldn't want anybody coming along and screwing up my garden. I'll be honest, but that's something we have to think about of how we incorporate it.
I still really struggle to let my whole family be part of the garden, and only over the last, I've been doing this for 12 years now, probably only over the last 5 years, I've sort of let everyone else sort of have a little chip in with it. It's very difficult to do. It's nice that I've got some nice areas for Olive, and especially when she was little, it's nice. It's sometimes very difficult. So I'm very understanding of parents that don't do it. But one of the messages I want to do is it don't have to open up a whole new realm of experience when you let everyone feel part of it. So I remember, say, pre-2020, when it was very much my garden and Olive had her little bit, but I had I'm designing it, like it was my design. As soon as after 2020, I sort of let everyone have their ideas. Everyone come out in the garden more. Like, or the whole family wanted to be outside a little bit more because they felt part of it.
Yeah.
So that's a very important part of it.
Yeah.
But I do understand the feeling. I get it.
So Andrew says, when I was at primary school, we grew mustard and cress on the windowsill. That impressed me so much at a young age, I never forgot. I remember actually at school, we grew cress in eggshells. I think it was a fun project. It's probably for a village fair or something as well, thinking about it, because we had to paint faces onto the eggshells and what have you. But it is a start. It is something, and that's something anybody could do.
Interestingly, the other day, Olive came back with a spider plant.
Oh, nice.
So basically, I was quite impressed. She came back and said, we all got the babies of the main spider plant, and we've replanted them up, and now we've got to see who can grow the biggest throughout the next couple of weeks. I thought, oh, that's quite nice. That's a nice little idea.
Moorhead has just walked over.
Moorhead.
I can't switch cameras, otherwise I'd show you.
You could literally just turn it around, look.
Where is it? I can't see the camera.
I'll give it here. Give it here. We'll have to show everybody. Here he is. Moorhen. There we go. Live.
There we go. So Digwell says, I wanted to be a diesel fitter. He thought I meant I wanted to work in a ladies' clothes shop. Diesel fitter.
That's very good.
Apparently, I'm not old enough to remember Compost Corners from Tiswas.
Okay.
So, okay. Benjamin, hey, Richard and Lee. First time watching a live, but have listened to all 605 episodes of the podcast. Also, listened to nearly all the lives on YouTube too. Thank you very much.
Wow.
A lot of dedication from the audience tonight. It's lovely. Digwell says 9th of September 1999 caused more problems than the Millennium Bug. Many counters and timers could not roll over from 9999.
Wow, what a time. Yeah, what a time to be alive.
Yeah. What shook me, says Jelly, a few years ago, I was attending a talk from RSPB in Birmingham. There was a little lad who had never experienced grass. He didn't know how he could go on it. How sad.
That's wild, isn't it?
But didn't you find out in 2025 when you did a school tour that there were some kids who didn't have gardens or schools that didn't even have green space?
Yeah, this is a massive issue we've got, is that as an industry or as just in general, for us who have allotments or have gardens, we're very lucky to have it. And so it's very easy sometimes for us to speak and say that it's easy for children to garden. But when there's children like that who haven't experienced grass and just being out on it, or children that have just a windowsill and no balcony or anything, what are we doing for them? And that, again, that flies back to schools, because schools have a little bit more space, sometimes not loads, but a little bit more space to be that encounter with nature and growing.
Now, Nicholas says, my parents both worked in teachers in the 60s to 80s, but I do have a memory of my granddad's growing cucumbers in the neighbour's house. Excuse me, small conservatory, had been an outside loo plus the same size again. Now, this is actually something I find often comes up when we've talked about this in the past, is that it's not so much the memory of doing gardening with the parents, although in many cases it is. It's also often the memory of gardening with the grandparents. And I think Digwell's also said that with his grandkids.
Yeah. I think it's a really important thing. Again, it's that connection, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that bond that you can build through that common subject of learning.
Yeah.
Which is lovely, isn't it? Which brings me on to a great point, a great segue, actually, Sir Richard.
Go for it.
To this year's competition, which I'd love your audience to be part of.
Tell them how.
We are giving away for National Children's Garden Week to one lucky winner a £1,000 garden bundle, which includes, I'm going to try and remember everything, a veg truck, £200 worth of Bergen and Ball tools, £200 worth of eco-effective feeds and deterrents for the garden, a £250 get started kit as well, which is really great. What else have we got? Seeds. We've got anyway, so 1,000. It's actually a £1,106 bundle.
Right.
Doesn't sound as fancy. Doesn't sound quite right. So we're calling it £1,000 garden bundle. So you actually get a £1,106 bundle. Anyway, the competition for National Children's Gardening Week is from next Saturday until the 1st of June. All you need to do is enter on Instagram or on the Children's Gardening Week website and just show you outside in the garden with your children, with your grandkids, spending time together, creating a memory, whether that be looking after wildlife, sowing some seeds, even just reading some books outside in the garden. Just spending time out there. All you need to do is post your picture on Instagram, tag myself, Skinny Jean Gardener, and National Children's Gardening Week. And also there's a hashtag as well. All the information will be on my socials, and probably Richard. Do you want to put yours on? Richard put it on his
mine as well.
And yeah, you can win a £1,000 garden bundle. I think it's a wicked competition because all you have to do is spend time out together, creating a memory.
Yeah. Now, on that note, Scott says gardening and cooking go hand in hand. We would be more healthy a nation if a lot more in both schools.
You're so right, Scott. You're so right.
Meadows asks, how's Olive?
She's good, actually. Yeah, she's all right. She'll be 10 in a couple of weeks, which is crazy. But she's very well. And yeah, she's growing up fast. She's now into football quite a bit.
Yes.
Connection of grass again there.
Yeah.
And the lawn.
Okay, I think I've just skipped a load of messages, so apologies if it was anything important. Benjamin says, sorry, Chubby was my other account. This is my main. Fair enough.
I don't want to know what's on that other account, Ben, but okay.
Rob says, where I live, the only things kids want to grow is wheat.
Different,
but at least they're growing something. I shouldn't say that.
I won't be saying that tomorrow.
No. There is a lot of market. I mean, I don't touch the stuff myself, but there is a lot of people now who are trying to grow weed for medical reasons. So again, the medical aspect of plants as well is where I was going with this. There is a reason for it. We often think that these pharmacists spend he's moving away, but pharmacists spend a lot of time hunting down plants to use in pharmaceuticals. And it's kind of true, they do. And in fact, again, we come back to history when plant hunters used to go all over the world to find herbs and plants that had some medicinal benefits to them. So again, it comes back.
And just to reel it back in, how do they know that? Through education. Bring it back in.
Stuart says there's nothing better when a child asks to do some gardening within forest school lesson. Nothing makes me mad. Is growing seeds in the plastic bag in the classroom window. Benjamin says, I didn't do gardening in school. Didn't do too well either, but ended up joining the army. I'm out now and have my own allotment.
Oh, amazing.
Well, thank you for your service as well. I don't know why I saluted. I don't even know if I did a correct salute, but thank you for your service.
I'm sure that means a lot.
I was never in the army, so I don't know anything about it.
You can clearly see we look like army material.
A lot of schools have sold their playing fields to builders, says Rob's allotment. Actually, that is, again, something that the school, my secondary school, that me and Phil went to, Chitty Phil, they used to have some huge fields across the road that we used to play football and rugby in. When they got sold off, and they're now houses. Every time I drive past it, it's like the houses have been there all the time. And you kind of forget about that. You do forget about that.
It's a shame, really, isn't it? That sort of thing happens, but it does happen. And all we can do is show the schools that they can still grow in whatever space they may have.
Now, Stuart, this is actually a very good point. The real reason schools don't do gardening, one is budget, and the other is teachers have no clue where to start.
Yeah.
This brings us up to something else that you've been involved in, isn't it? Because you've been trying to get Parliament to get gardening into the national curriculum.
If I'm honest with you, I think one of the ways that we can really support schools, and especially with a curriculum review going on at the moment, I think is to try and be part of that conversation, to try and add it to the curriculum would be incredible. But as we've got a curriculum review going on at the moment by government, I think that we should have a say, and we should say that outdoor learning is a really good way of doing it. So I think it's an important thing, yeah.
But share with the audience what you've been doing with the government.
So what have I been doing? I went to the House of Lords. I don't talk about it very often, but I did, to give evidence for the curriculum. I've also added written evidence for the integration of horticulture into the curriculum, and I've been out to Parliament a few times to discuss it with different MPs and stuff as well. So yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from that is since Labour come in power last year, there's been a lot more conversations. And is there going to be change? I wouldn't hold my breath, but there is conversations about it. I think the biggest thing that this week's tour needs to do and prove is that there's enough talk. We've had enough talk, and we can do lots of talking, but actually now we need some proper action. So if we can try and promote that and get out there, then we've won.
Yeah. So Benno's is saying his grandkids are here, and he was sure there were more peas outside before they got here.
Always away.
They love peas. Absolutely love fresh peas.
Benno's must have a lot of peas, because I remember years ago he always moaned about that on the lives. He must grow a lot of peas.
A lot of people do complain. Complain's probably the wrong word.
Complain.
Rob says, what if you do not have any kids? Well, I don't have any kids. Doesn't mean I cannot put my 2 pence worth in what I think about it.
Depends if you want to support schools as well, because if you've got a local school and you've got an allotment or you're a gardener, you've probably got a lot of seeds hanging around, like me.
Or was he talking about a competition?
Oh.
Kidnap a kid. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's the wrong thing.
Well, I tell you what, if you don't have any kids, then the best thing you can do, unfortunately, Rob, for this sort of competition, there's a lot of competitions out there for gardening, but one thing you can do, which would be helpful for us and myself, is just let someone you know who may have kids about the competition and about National Children's Gardening Week. Thank you.
Yeah. Kate says, competition sounds amazing. I don't have kids. Would my tortoise count?
I don't know if we can accept tortoises. That's the first time I've ever been asked, Kate. Same answer, though. If you know anyone with children, it's a great opportunity. And hey, if you know anyone with children, this is like getting a £1,000 garden bundle, right? To say, look, I told you about this competition. If you win, maybe you could throw us. It's £100 garden voucher as part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe you could throw me the garden voucher.
Yeah, if you know anybody with kids, ask them to do it and go halves with them or something.
Arvies, yeah.
Arvies, for sake. Stuart's looking forward to catching up in the week.
I am too, sir. I am too.
Benjamin says thank you. Scott says our village school has an allotment plot on our site. I think schools should have an allotment plot if they don't already. I actually had an email this week from a member of my sports club. I haven't told you about this. Who said the same thing. She's had schools come to her allotment site to learn about gardening and growing on the allotment, which actually makes a lot of sense. Again, there's allotments in every village, or should be in every village, where nearby a school.
Yeah, I don't think the villages are the issue. I think the issue we've got is like more urban area. I'm talking about the right place, urban areas,
Towns. Yeah.
towns and cities is the issue. So if there's an allotment plot close to a city school, then that would make a lot of sense. Out in the countryside, you're pretty safe to know that they're going to have enough space to create their own allotment. But I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good connection there. And if you can do it, I went to a school last year where was that? I think it was up in Manchester actually. I went to a school, and just down the road from the school, they had an allotment of their own, and they grew all of their stuff down there, and they cooked it up in school. But the whole allotment community was around that school, supporting them, and always they had like a pile of stuff that was always left for them, donated to them. And so I think actually communities around allotments can really support schools in that way. So I think it's a good idea if you can do it and you've got a teacher and there's an allotment plot within walking distance as well is really essential.
Yeah. Now, coming back to the education of plants and history, Digwell says the plant hunters also brought back the alien invaders like Himalayan balsam, Japanese knotweed, rhododendron, giant hogweed, etc. And again, this is something that I think is the educational aspect of gardening.
Yeah.
Because there are alien invaders. There are plants that are incredibly destructive. And why did we bring them back? Because we didn't realise the danger. We've learned from it now, but particularly in the Victorian times, everything was brought back because the Victorians loved their gardening.
Yeah, even just in the simplest of terms, I saw someone planting bamboo right next to their home the other day,
Oh,
and I was too nervous to go over and say anything to them because they looked like they might beat me up. But I just thought I mean, even on bamboo, really, there should be a warning label saying don't plant this next to your house. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And so the education side's lost on that.
Yeah. I told you the story about somebody I knew who had bamboo, did I? I'll tell everybody
Tell them
this.
again.
This is going back many, many years ago now. But one of my American listeners, they contacted me about the bamboo they had growing in their garden, how to get rid of it. But it was growing through their house, through the floorboards of their house. And I said, look, as much as I hate weed killer, you're going to need weed killer for this because that's going to destroy your house.
Mm.
Be careful. Their garden was a nature garden. They didn't want to use weed killer, so they were going to keep trying to dig it out, but they were trying that for years. Wasn't working. About a year later, they came back to me and said they'd wished they'd listened to me because the bamboo not only destroyed their house, the neighbour's house.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I hate
A
weed
warning
killer.
there.
I don't like using weed killer, but it has a place.
Yeah.
Stuart says a gardening lesson is so easy to get going. All you need is a bucket, some compost. Seeds are cheap.
I think Stuart's right. I think the issue we've got, Stuart, is even that to some teachers is too much.
Yeah.
Even that feels like a lot. And I think for us, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But I think it's trying to educate teachers who start from zero that it's easy, and also showing them what the positives are from doing that exercise. Is there actually anything you can get from it?
So Kate says we never did my gardening any gardening in school, sorry, and neither with my parents. I got into it when I got some free herb seeds from Marks and Spencer's. I loved it so much it
2020.
became a part of my life thanks to some free seeds.
Mm.
But that kind of sums up what we're trying to do this week.
Yeah.
So what you're trying to do this
Oh,
week.
we as a team, definitely.
Okay.
Starting that inspiration. Oh, hold on a second.
Dale's joined us.
Dale's here, everyone.
Hey everyone, I was actually watching. I was watching on YouTube.
Wait, you can come here, Suggs. I'll go see.
I'm actually really impressed with Suggs' commitment, Richard's commitment to one doing this for 5 years, most Sundays, and also being out here in a t-shirt right now, because there's a bit of a chill.
He hasn't brought a t-shirt with him. He hasn't brought
He's
a
brought a
t-shirt.
t-shirt with him.
Oh no, he has brought a t-shirt. He hasn't brought.
Let's be very clear with.
He hasn't brought a jumper with him. He hasn't brought a jumper.
No,
How are you going to do this, Richard?
we'll figure it out. We're just sort of.
Is that not a thing?
No, he
We're
can't.
good.
It's too low for him. Too low.
Jenny says Gardeners World Live always has the wheelbarrow gardens, which are great. You've got thoughts on this, haven't you?
Yep.
But wouldn't it be amazing for a school to design and build a show gardens, maths, science, design, etc., all covered? A huge sense of achievement.
All right.
Look, how long have I got for this?
As long as you need.
So if we look at the wheelbarrow competition, I think it's a great competition. I think that it works exactly what I do. It's small and simple and easy for the teachers to do. I think that maybe they could have some funding towards it. I'm pretty sure they don't get any money towards the gardens. And I think that actually what they need is not, it doesn't have to be me, but someone that goes into the schools and supports the school throughout that project, however big or small that garden is. So I know that at BBC Gardeners World Live, those wheelbarrows have gone for a while, a long time, haven't they? In wheelbarrows. But I think it needs that support beforehand and that support after to continue. Because if not, and this is exactly what's happening, is those show gardens are being built for the show, and then it's like, we'll see you next year. Like, they'll just see you later. And so it means the children aren't continuing that thing. Another thing I'd say is Southport Flower Show do that. They do a garden where they get the whole schools to design it and then they build it. The missing part of that show, as amazing as it is the children don't build a garden. They just design it. And so I think for children to really feel part of it, they need to be part of every single part of the process, and we need to continue that support afterwards, because if not, it's just a bit of a flash in the pan. Those are my thoughts on show gardens.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the wheelbarrow gardens, I always have a look at them, but they've not really changed much in the years that I've been going to Gardeners World Live.
I'd really like to see that area grow, from honest with you.
Yeah. We were talking about this with Malvern earlier, weren't we? When you did Malvern, you wanted the kids' garden to be very prominent.
Yeah, I think it's also not only that, they are such a draw for the public. And I just don't feel like those areas, however much you give away tickets for free for children, what are they coming to the show for? What are they enjoying there? It's a whole other subject, if I'm honest with you, but it needs work.
Dale was about to say something.
Well, no, I was thinking about how, like, there's a risk in gardening and at these show gardens for it to be diluted to not being a high quality experience. And I think anything we do has to be a high quality visitor experience, child experience. And so, yeah, I don't know. What do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because one thing that I do a festival in July, and I do show gardens with schools. And one of the things that I've learned is that I do not want the teachers to feel used. And sometimes the feedback I get from teachers that have done shows before is they just feel used for their children to come along and get some photos and get a garden, and then that's it. That's the end of the journey. I see you later. So I think probably there needs to be a lot more work put into that side of things. So one of the things that we've done with our show gardens in the festival is build up over the years a connection with all of the schools that we're with, and continue that line of communication so that they always feel like they're part of it, up to the point that next year we're going to hopefully be able to fund a teacher celebration event, which it could be just like bowling, it could be like just all coming together, but just trying to say thank you to the teachers more than anything. And that's my next goal for that them show gardens bit. We already fund the gardens. We already support the teachers by going to all the schools and showing up afterwards as well, and making sure that continued line of communication. My final bit of that puzzle is to have that celebration for the teachers as well.
Yeah.
So that's what's needed. We need teachers not to feel used. Sorry, it's a long answer.
So Stuart says gardening is in the curriculum already, but teachers take an easy option.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Benjamin says he's not too far along the coast from me. Whereabouts are you? Margaret, my stepmother, forest school is something that has caught on in schools. From a head teacher's point of view, Margaret used to be a head teacher. A timetabled subject that is weather dependent. What happens when it rains? Summer holidays, huge problem as many crops ripen as the holidays arrive. Teachers are very protective over their time off time. We had Derek, who was the gardener, who was employed year round. And this is, again, something that we've discussed a lot in the past and want to find the answer to.
Yeah, well, the answer basically is something that I created with School Garden Success back in 22 or 23, which looked after your plant. So you just watered the way we had it. What's it called? A wicker
Wicker
system,
bed, yeah.
wicker bed system, which meant that you watered it, only had to water it once a week, didn't have to continually care for it. And so it saw you through the whole of the summer holidays. So by the time you come back in September, those plants would have ripened and you'll have loads of plenty of veg. So the schools and teachers don't have to do it so much. That's something totally different. But forest schools I think forest schools are decent actually. I think if you've got a forest school teacher in your school, it's amazing. Again, it's just making sure that the time's there. Get on.
Yeah, so with forest school as well, is that forest school in itself is quite a designated thing, isn't it? You have to go through a lot of training to become a forest school leader. But actually, you can run forest fun sessions with a teaching assistant, and you can have high numbers of children going through a forest play experience.
Yeah.
Going back to Stuart Jackson, earlier on in the show, he said that actually gardening, all you need is a bucket and something. I know you said even that is too much for some teachers, but I was thinking about that and thinking actually, like Stuart's right, that you can get gardening very, very quickly, just with a bucket. And so that's what happens with Forest Fun, is that children just get to go and explore, get to play, get to experiment. And perhaps there needs to be a bit of that in gardening. Perhaps we've made it a bit too rigid.
I think more so, one of the things is how do we instill that confidence for teachers to grab the bucket and seeds? I think that's probably the question where we're looking at, is where's that confidence come from?
Well, I would say from this week on the school garden, what's this tour called?
School garden, the nationwide school garden tour.
Nationwide school garden tour. I would say you going to 15
schools.
15 schools this week actually sparks that inspiration for them to pick up a bucket and pick up some seeds and start gardening. And that's actually one of my hopes for this week being on tour, is that we spark the imagination of and the curiosity of teachers.
Yeah, because if anything, that time we spend out in the playground, that time that we're actually are sowing seeds, is only around 15 to 20 minutes long. And so we're showing it in such a short amount of time. You don't have to have a lot of equipment to get that whole class growing. So maybe you're right. Maybe that is that inspiration, that confidence that we can sort of push forward. So thank you for that, Dale. Thank you, Dale. In the clinics.
Jenny says it would be great if I can take the garden back to the school, talking about show gardens.
Yeah.
Stuart says children's show gardens are
Yeah.
work. He's having done 5 or 6. We got £250. That was my petrol money.
Yeah, I think that one. I remember the conversations way back, Stu, when we had that, and I thought that was just ridiculous, considering that you have to get a load of children backwards and forwards to the showgrounds, and all you're giving is £250. None of that goes from the show garden, and you should see the amazing gardens that everyone builds, and all that comes from teachers' own money, and not Robin literally, but taken from different areas and parents, and that's a lot, and all you're giving is £250. Don't feel like that's enough to show that you're a big part of our show and we care about you.
So Scott says it really is not an easy thing to get into schools and for it to work with all the schools and teachers. I have so much respect for you doing it and making it work.
Oh, thank you, mate. Appreciate that.
Jenny says, I've only done a little local show and very much with the teachers. Each year group made a metre square garden, and each garden went back to the school for the kids to maintain it and enjoyed it after.
I think actually that's a great way of doing it. And that's what we do with our Skinny Jean Gardener gardens from my show that I do. We actually do it in a veg drug. But before that, we did a meter. And it makes it so simple. And I remember when we first did that, and I put it out to schools that we were doing show gardens, everyone was very wary because they said, you're going to do a show garden. And that people just picture such a big area. We were like, oh no, we're just doing a meter. And they're like, oh, actually, we could handle that. It's a really nice, easy success that we can do. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
If you if you took the show garden back to your school, then you could actually double your impact of how many people get to experience that garden, because like the school community, the wider community can then experience that, whatever that garden is for.
And if we go way, way back to what we talked about at like 6:30 earlier on, that memory side. So when children are walking past that garden in their own school grounds, they're like, oh, remember when we did that show garden? Remember what we got from that moment?
Yeah.
And and psychologically, they'd call that sense of belonging, that reconnection to that community, because they've actually created something that is there. And they, it's a bit like putting a piece of artwork on a fridge. You feel, you feel proud.
Yeah.
When a child feels proud.
Yeah. So Stuart says his 5 school lessons go rain or shine.
Oh yeah, I should have mentioned earlier. Someone said about that. If it starts raining, I think whatever happens, get outside and do it.
Yeah.
Whatever weather it is.
Apart from thunder and lightning.
Yeah, obviously it's fun. But I think whatever weather, get out there and enjoy it. Like, you experience different things. I was talking to someone the other day, not gardening related, but it was just about visiting a city in winter. And I said, no matter what you do, that experience, whether it's raining or it's bright sun, that's your moment, that's your memory you're making outside. So I think with gardening we can do that as well. You can make a different memory. Sometimes when it's raining, say if I went to Disneyland and it's raining and I was at this big moment of all going away on holiday and we're all going to Disney and it's chucking it down, I think to myself, this is an experience that not everyone gets to have, and this is unique to us. The same with gardening. If it's raining, it's unique. That moment's different from what everyone else is experiencing.
I was saying to Richard earlier that so I work as a children's counsellor, and I have a 2-acre counselling space. And sort of following on from what you're saying, Lee, I've gone through autumn, winter, and now spring in this counselling space. And I remember in the winter, the children were using mallets to break the ice on the pond. And now that pond has now turned into a place of there's tadpoles and newts in there. And so the actual garden constantly creates new opportunities to explore, and the smells and everything. It's
Interesting. Didn't think of that, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense changing it. I mean, Stuart's just said, don't stop Dale talking. His talk sense. Does he want a job?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Drop it off in Ashton Haynes, don't worry.
And Jenny says, no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothes choice.
Yeah, very good point.
So I think that the question I want to ask the audience now is, if they could do one thing to encourage a child to garden, what would they do? I'm going to ask Dale to answer that while everybody else gets there.
Can you say the question again? Sorry.
If you could do one thing to encourage children to garden, what would you do?
One thing to encourage children to garden. So I would say there's no right or wrong way to do this.
No right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong way to do this. Just explore and get curious.
Yeah.
Like, just try some. Just try it.
Try it.
Yeah. Release that pressure, the expectations.
What was the question?
If you could do one thing to get children into the garden.
Well, one thing, yes.
One thing, what would you do?
I would, one single thing to get them out into the garden, I would just tell them, let's go and spend 10 minutes outside and see. News just in, Liberal Mail of Budapest. Sorry, I'm reading your news. I would tell them, let's go outside for 10 minutes and let's just potter around and maybe let's plant something, like let's get some seeds in the ground, or that's a rubbish answer, actually.
No, it's a brilliant answer, because
just do something.
I think that's a brilliant answer, because I go back to what I said earlier. There's way too many expectations in gardening.
Yeah.
We need to get rid of those expectations.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's my answer. Let's just go outside for 10 minutes. And the reason I say just for 10 minutes is because it's not too much of a big arc.
Yeah.
And you'll see that 10 minutes turn into maybe half hour, maybe even an hour. Yeah. As soon as you say, let's go outside for an hour, you are in for trouble, because as a child, they're like, that's just too overwhelming for them. And too much of it turns into a task. Whereas if you say, let's just pop outside and let's do something, let's try and let's find some fun
Yeah.
out there, or let's take that. Why don't you take that book and let's read outside? Then it slowly rolls into something, and that's nice. Maybe sitting outside reading a book could then turn into planting some seeds, or just doing a little bit of weeding together, or planting something up. You don't know where it will go, but the biggest hurdle with children's gardening is just getting them outside in that setting.
Yeah. So my answer to that would be, I would just say to the child, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? We'll go do it. That's my answer. Sorry, Dale was about to say something as well.
No, we had like similar. I was going to actually sort of share what you were saying. Like you say, what do you want to do?
What do you want to
I
do?
was going to say, one of the questions that I use in counselling is, where do you want to start? Like, where do you want to start out here today? So they're in the garden, and then hand it over to them. And the reason of doing that is that power imbalance between the adult and the child. And you said earlier about, I was listening inside about the dad's garden thing. You know, this is dad's garden. You know, don't touch that. No, don't go there. But actually, what we need to do in garden is balance the power between the adult and the child. And that question's that you said, Richard's brilliant.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to do? Where do you want to start?
That's a very powerful answer there. So Stuart says, given them their own space. Stuart says, given them their own space, totally their space to do what they want to do.
I think that's a brilliant idea as well. I think that's very important because there's a sense of responsibility from that. And also, you don't feel, as a parent, sometimes you can feel like, and I said it earlier on, that they're coming along and destroying your garden that you spent time on. Giving them their own space gives them that freedom to do whatever they want. If you're brave enough, give them the whole garden to do what they want, and you can sort of chime in. As I said earlier, my garden experience totally changed as soon as I let the rest of my family be part of it.
Beto says, one thing, grow peas, something they love to eat. It's true though. I mean, I think Olive, whenever I've asked Lee's daughter, Olive, what her favourite thing to grow, she always answers strawberries. And because she loves to eat them. And I think that is actually quite an important part as well. Letting them grow something they want to grow, not letting it be our decision.
Lee has in his school garden success plan, you have a pizza thing, don't you? Because, of course, what kid doesn't like pizza? Like, it's quite rare. So, you grow a pizza. What's it called?
Yeah, it's the pizza party. Pizza party. So basically, we grow towards something. I think that's important as well. So if you're growing anything, always let children know what the end goal is going to be, because they're going to care about it more. And if it's going to be a pizza, they're really going to care about that ingredients.
Stuart says fun. Important. Jenny says, one thing, make mud pies. Stir in some seeds, some roots, and have fun. Leave the mud pies on the side for a week and revisit to see if anything has grown. Grow fun, grow memories, and seeds.
Yeah, that's a really nice idea. I always remember having a mud kitchen with Olive when she was a lot younger. Now she's come up to 10, she wouldn't use it as much. But it did mean that she was outside, pottering around, getting her hands messy, while I was pottering around in the garden as well, which meant we could spend time together. So I think it's a good idea. And I also like the idea. I've not really thought about that, but creating mud pies and waiting to see what grows from it as well. That's really nice. That's a good idea.
I like that as well. Now, one of the other things I was just thinking of while we've been discussing this, and I've forgotten it now, I hate it with this sentence. I'll tell you what, while I try and think of it, by the way, guys, I haven't done a mission, haven't done a photos or anything of the usual features we added, but I do need you to set me a mission, a cook along for next week. And I'm still trying to think what my point was. It'll come to me in just a moment. Stuart says, I was once told your garden is looking great. I replied, it's not my garden, but it was. Now the children lead the activity.
Yeah, Stuart's really good at letting the children really lead that whole session, and it works. It works really well. He sort of directs it a little bit, but if anything, especially at that school, it's one of the schools I go to that the kids know everything that's going on. And I think you notice that within schools. If a teacher shows you around the school gardens, then you know they've had a lot more. Their fingers have been in a lot more of the pies. Whereas, especially at Ashton Keynes, when I go there, their children are the ones giving me the tour, and they're the ones that can answer all the questions. And you can see that enthusiasm and passion from them, and that's when it really works.
Yeah.
And they've got all the answers.
Now, just remember what my next sort of point was going to be. Kids gardening tools. Now, I remember when I was a kid, they were all plastic. They were toys, really. Plastic gardening toys. And they were, for want of a better word. But nowadays, there are some more better kids' tools, isn't there? There's Bulldog make their own. Is it Bulldog?
Bergen and Ball are our tool partner.
Right.
For you can name them if you want, but our tool partner for this tour is Bergen and Ball. And you know, I've been on your show before and talked about tools before, that I've got a real dislike sometimes for them tools that are a bit colourful and sometimes just fall apart. And the tools we're actually going to be giving out to schools this year are from Bergen and Ball. And some of the watering cans are colourful and some of the little bits are nice, but the tools themselves are proper steel tools, just a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
You know that I love them ones because I think the children feel like they're part of them. They're gonna last, and that's what we really want, especially as parents or even teachers. That we're going to be buying tools. We want them to last long time, and I always connect that whole mobile phone thing, that mobile phone story. That when Olive was little, she always saw us on our phones and said, "Oh, I want a phone," and we gave her a Peppa Pig phone. She didn't care about that Peppa Pig phone, that little toy phone. She wanted the real thing. She's still not got a phone, I should mention that. And the same with tools. If the kids can see you using proper tools and you're giving them what is looking like a toy, then they don't feel part of that whole process, and they don't feel like they're being given any responsibility. So this year's tool partner is Bergen and Ball.
I mean, one thing I would say is that you
Not
don't.
Cannon at all.
One thing bring it on me. One thing I would say is you don't really want kids playing around with sharp knives or sharp secateurs and doing potentially cutting their fingers off, shall we say. But at the same time, I've always believed that if you put a bit of trust in children and show them how to use these tools properly, including knives, they're going to have more respect for it.
Yeah, with some direction from teachers or parents, I mean, you can do it. I remember the other day, I was cutting some wood up and Olive come and helped me use a saw. I said, "Do you want to do it?" And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, you can cut it up if you want." And she was very slowly doing it and was really careful and maybe got a little bit overconfident at one point. But I keep talking about memories, don't I? But she'll remember that moment of that thing that we made, that she'll remember that time that we spent out doing that. And she was given and trusted with a saw. So I think under the right direction is a good idea.
Yeah. Stuart's just said to remind me to tell you to share, follow, like. Don't forget to click the notifications so that you know when we go live, which stops me getting in trouble with both Facebook and YouTube.
You get in trouble?
I get in trouble, I get told off, get emails telling me off for not saying that. Stuart also says, don't get me started. We were given some last week, I think this is tools.
Yeah.
I was asked if I wanted. I said, no thanks, pop them in the sandpit, please.
Oh.
I don't agree with that, though, because there is a place for the kids' toys, tools, such as the sandpit, because you don't really want proper tools in there. But when you're gardening, you want proper kids' tools.
If I'm honest with you, at the age of maybe up to 2 years old, I think 2 or 3 years old, maybe them tools are good for that sort of thing. But once you get into primary school age, you need to be able to trust kids with tools.
Yeah. Oh, skipped a load again. It's very sensitive, this.
Very.
Scott says, we are designed to like sweet things. Freshly picked vegetables eaten raw are super sweet. I've seen kids say they hate carrots, but they eat a freshly picked one raw and love it.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I do think proper food children love. Supermarket that is bland in flavour, more chosen for storage potential, isn't quite as good as homegrown. But I would say that anyway. Meadows asks, whatever happened to your taxi?
Next question.
Next question, okay. Jenny says, I purchased some children's tools for my nephew. They will last for years. Proper tool, just a smaller version of an adult tool.
Yes.
He always brings them and we garden together. I love it.
There you go. I love that too. That's a very good comment.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I remember as a child my dad gave me a woodworking tool set. There's proper saws, proper screwdrivers, and I used to love that toolkit, and I used it for years. And it inspired a lot of things that I like doing. Although he always raids my seed box for himself, he's only 5, and I love his passion.
Oh yeah.
Courage it. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Keep it
Like
going.
them seeds.
Yeah, we can always replace seeds. Yeah. Where were we? Stuart says, Richard, why can't they use tools? They are more careful than we are. I have only ever cut myself. I meant more unsupervised. You're not going to go hand a child a machete and tell them to go and do gardening with that.
I'm not sure if I'd handed a child machete full stop, but yeah, okay.
That's-
Even under supervision, I wouldn't say it's a good idea.
I think, again, even a machete, I know that's going way off. Well, it's a pretty unique way of gardening. In the Caribbean, they do it a lot. But I think if a child is taught how to use a tool, including a machete, properly, they're going to respect it more. And that's where the point I get.
I just want to say, for legal reasons, we will not be using the machete this week on the school tour.
Yeah, no, I've left those at home. Andrew says, give children proper tools. They might cut themselves, but so do we, as I did yesterday. Yes, trust them. Then Scott says, on tools, my partner agrees, but rules will say using tools will take more adult supervision, and most schools, i.e. primary schools, will struggle with that.
I agree with you.
That's actually a good point, actually, because we've mentioned machetes and knives and secateurs.
You have.
I have. But if 30 kids and one teacher, you
Yeah.
can't supervise all the kids.
No, I think in certain school settings, it's possible. But you are right. In some schools that I've been to, I would say it's not possible. So it does depend on the school. It does depend on the teacher. It does depend how many people. Depends how many teachers and TAs you've got within that class.
It's also not just the school's responsibility to teach children this. Like it has to happen back at the home as well.
Yeah.
So like we talk a lot about schools teaching the children, but actually like gardening,
Yeah.
but actually we also need the parents and carers to do the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we were hitting on that at the beginning of the show, that we do need parents to do things and as well. What was that?
He wasn't here at that time, but
He might have been watching though.
he might have been watching, so he probably should have remembered.
Yeah.
Like,
So has anybody got any questions they want to ask Leo Dale while we're here? We've got just over 10 minutes left of the show, provided my battery holds out, that is. What we're going to talk about next week is a question as well. Anybody got any? Let's have a free-for-all next week. So if anybody wants to suggest a topic for next week, now's the time. Also a mission, a challenge, the same thing, and the cook-along. I need your ideas for that.
can I suggest an idea?
Go for it.
Why don't you ask everyone to send you a load of different subjects to talk about and do a tombola sort of style where on each ball is a different idea, and you have a show where you roll the tombola and then take different ideas out from that people have put in.
What do you guys think on that? It's up to you. I like the idea, though.
Or you
Go on.
let's get creative right now for your show. Or why don't you get everyone to submit a topic? So you say you've got like 10 topics lined up, and then before the show they can vote for which topic you're going to talk about, and you just like riff on it.
How do we do the voting? That's going to be the hard thing. Anyway.
What if you get loads of ideas, get people's ideas in, put it on a dartboard, and wherever you throw the dart, that's where we go.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. I like the idea. I like the idea. Jenny says my son has used a whittling knife since he was 7 years old. Careful teaching and trust. He is older now and very skilled. He loves finding fallen wood and making spoons. You know what? Again, this comes back to part of gardening that I think we often overlook. Or perhaps it's not gardening, it's outdoor skills. I was a scout when I was a child, so I learned a lot of map crafts, whittling, as already mentioned. And that does play into gardening at the same time. It's like knowing what tree is an oak or a willow and
Yeah.
what you can use it for.
Tree education is something that I'm still not great at, if I'm honest with you, and I'd love to know more because to any people, parents with younger children right now, say they're about 3 or 4 years old, start learning your trees, because by the time they get to 8, 9 years old, they're going to start asking you the question, what tree is that?
Yeah, I remember I bought a little book so I could answer those questions.
Can I borrow it?
Yeah, when I find it. Love a tombola, says Jenny. I'd best get more paper for the notes. Stuart says Lee and Dale's idea sounds like a plan. Scott says, so true. My 13-year-old has better knife skills than some chefs I've worked with. Again, I do believe one of the problems this is my personal opinion, but we've vilified, let's say, a knife for so many years with children that we've almost taken that skill away from them. And it takes education with that. Again, gardening as well. Supervised education. Beddoes, if using Lee's idea of darts, make sure Roxy is kept well away. Don't worry. I will make sure I'm not going to do darts.
Right. Great idea. Right. You get a ball, like a load of tennis balls. You throw them into the garden, right? You let Roxy run out and get the ball. Whatever's on that ball is the subject of the week.
Okay. Roxy's not exactly a ball retriever, but we can work with something like that.
Take some training.
Yeah. Chili Phil says, I teach knife skills from 6 in Scouts in small groups, but the knives are sharp. Our son has had his own knife from that age.
Oh, this just took a turn, this conversation.
But I mean, again, that's my personal opinion. I do think if children are taught at a young age how to use a knife, even in cooking, they're going to respect it more. Jenny says, I have paper scraps and a seed tray. If you want me to pull an idea out of the suggestion, let me know. We need suggestions first. That's the thing. Stuart says, the trouble is with health and safety is all my risk assessments have to be approved. The person who signs them off has never been outside, so I'm hitting the wall.
Yeah, there's so many hurdles, and that is one of them.
Yeah, health and safety is always a problem when it comes to that. He also says the ball idea is great.
Thanks, Steve.
So,
can you get those seeds where you have messages on the seed and then it grows? So
yeah,
maybe you do that and you have each of the ideas on a seed and you let it grow for a few weeks and then
like a live
whatever one comes up.
I don't.
And you don't do a show until that seed grows.
I don't think that's quite going to
Great
work.
idea, isn't it?
Don't think that's quite going to work.
We'll keep going.
Keep going. I guess really. Any final thoughts on this subject tonight?
Final thoughts. Okay. I think the biggest thing is if you're a teacher, an educator, a parent, or someone that feels like they can impact a child's life in gardening, then just get outside and spend some time together and create a memory. That's the biggest thing, memory.
Yeah.
What are they going to be talking about in 10 to 15 years' time?
Yeah, I agree. Dale?
Yeah, for me, it would be lower the expectations, but not the quality.
Excellent.
Nice.
Beddoes says, health and safety in my day was called common sense. I think it still is these days. It's just now there's so much risk that somebody could get seriously hurt and sued, more importantly. Well, not more importantly, but that's more the
That's
thing.
the problem, isn't it?
That's the problem.
Culture.
Yeah. And they're worried about that. They've got to put things in place to make sure that it's done safely for that very reason. Jenny suggests a topic: how to adapt our gardens to less rain and early heat, etc. I like that.
I'll be all over that subject.
Yeah, then we'll do that. Apparently, you two are blowing my mind. Like this idea.
Only just begun.
All right. Stuart says, subject for next week: what did Richard learn on the school tour? You'll probably find out on the podcast next week, to be honest. But more stay tuned. We have got 4 minutes left, so I do need a mission challenge.
Song, by the way.
What is?
4 minutes left to go. There's a Mark. 4 minutes is a Mark Owen song. It's a good one. Go and Spotify it.
It wasn't.
YouTube it. What do you
Yeah.
think? No, Mark coming from.
Take that. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I do need a mission, a challenge for next week.
You know,
I don't like take that, so I've moved
you
on.
might
from
like
that.
Mark Owen. You might. You might.
No, I remember.
A few years
I remember
ago.
one of his songs.
Can we just sing a little bit? Like, to you?
No,
It's too late now. It's 3 minutes. to go,
YouTube.
so it's,
YouTube
wouldn't
block
make
it
it
out.
Wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. Benno says 4 minutes, boil an egg.
Similar experience.
What have we got? By the way, on the podcast tomorrow, if anybody is interested, we've got hot bin composting. I've interviewed the company. As you know, we're doing a hot bin versus Dalek composter this week, or this year as an experiment, and they are on the podcast tomorrow. Really good chat, I've got to say. They've got a discount code if you are looking to buy a hot bin as well. They are also, actually, one more question I want to ask, and I've just remembered. Is anybody going to Chelsea this week? I'm not. It's on this week. It's on this week, yeah, apparently. Was I'm told.
Don't know if about it.
Yeah. Jenny says recipe, a smoothie that school kids could make and enjoy, or colourful pancakes.
Yeah, Jamie does something like that.
Smoothie, I like that. Yeah, we can do that. Andrew, how about different ways to sharpen tools as a mission? Yep, I'm with you on that as well. And Stuart says, get one of the head teachers doing a gardening task.
That would be that's the key, isn't it? That's the key.
That's the key.
Can I just mention something at the end of your live stay?
Go for it.
Something that I need to start talking about this week a lot more is that this week we're on school tour, and on Saturday next week is the first episode of the documentary, and then throughout the whole of National Children's Garden Week there'll be 5 episodes of the school tour documentary. So I'm just saying, if you want to go and watch them, please do.
There we go. Go check them out. Where do they find them?
You can find them on Skinny Jean Gardener socials and on the Children's Garden Week website.
There we go. There we go. Where were we? Andrew says, good night, everyone. Thanks, Richard and friends. Lovely to spend this hour and a half with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew.
Andrew. Jenny says, mission make a pollinators drinking station. It's between that and the sharpening of the tools. So you guys decide. Let us know in the comments. Sharpening of the tools or drinking station in our final few seconds, actually. Can I set myself up to get out of here this way? Oh, God, I've just hit some music, haven't I? No, I haven't. I don't like doing this. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. Right, guys, it is time now to get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do keep in touch. We'll be back again next Sunday at 6, back in the studio with our usual setup.
You should do it like this all the time.
No, good God, no. I can never do this all the time.
Like from an M1 service station.
Yeah. Go and get a beer, guys. Deserve it. Tonight. Anyway, right, guys. You take care, and I will see you again next Sunday at 6. How do I get out of there?